What is your birth name?
You know what? I'm glad you my birth name is Gustavo Beltran. And so, gosh.
Well, I want to know about your immigrant story. I really
Yeah, I'll
do.
tell you. I was born Gustavo Beltran in June of 1963, and my mother was unmarried and gave me to an orphanage in Bogota, Colombia, and I lived in this orphanage from about 3 months to almost four. And my parents came, my adopted parents came, and they were Baptist missionaries, Bruce and Kay Robertson, and they took me home, and I became Peter Robertson. And a year later, they asked me, "We're going to go back." The woman that took care of me, her name was Mildred Healy. We called her Tia Millie. "We're going to go back and see Tia Millie. Do you want a baby brother or a baby sister?" And I said, "I think I want a baby sister." And so we picked up my sister and brought her home. And then we came to the United States in
Mm,
1969.
wow.
And so we originally were coming here on furlough, but then we never ended up going back.
Mm.
So a quick story I'll tell you is my parents were missionaries, so they would get Christmas cards from other missionaries, Japan, Africa, and they would make the Jesuses look like the Jesus of the people that live there. So
Mm,
so they would see a reflection of themselves in Christ.
mm,
So in Africa, Jesus would be black. In Japan, Jesus would have Asian features. But we'd get some from the States, and there would be white. Everything would be covered in white, with the trees and a home and a house. And I'm living by the equator. I don't, I'm asking my mother, "What is this?" She goes, "That's snow." I said, "Oh my gosh, what's snow?" She goes, "Well, it's like ice, but it's shaved and it falls from the sky like rain." And I'm trying
mm,
to understand. I'm 4 or 5 years old. I've not seen snow, and so I ask, "Where does it snow?" And she says it snows in the United States. One day we'll go to the United States. So the spring of 1969, we're going to come to the United States, and we fly from Bogota to Medellin, or Medellin to Bogota, and Bogota to Miami. And I get off the plane, and now I'm 5, and my 5-year-old brain, I'm ready to see the snow. It's it's Miami, Florida in April. There was there was no snow. So then I asked my mom, I said, "Mom, Mama, where's the snow? You said there was gonna be snow." "Oh," she gets the map out, "We're gonna drive from Miami to Seattle, and there'll be snow up in Seattle." So we drive, it takes a week to drive with 3 kids, 4 kids, and we get to Seattle, and now it's May of 1969, and there's not a drop of snow anywhere. We're coming up on summer. So by then, I thought my parents were pretty much fibbing to me, because I've been waiting for 2 years to see the snow, and I got to see it, when Christmas time came around. But that was my you're a little kid, that's all you can think about. I just wanted to see what the
mm.
snow was all about.
Well, that's pretty good. I mean,
So let me share.
I'm interested in this part of your journey. I told Lev behind the scenes that we're going to I want to tell a central story, and you know that story is going to be, you know where we're going to go with this, and I didn't even give you a clue. You just know what it's going to be. But before we get into that, I want to ask about your this, because you had like these. I was surprised to think of you as an immigrant, because I think of you as a guy whose story is dominated by being queer,
Mhm.
and you uplift queer people in Fresno, which is an important job to do. But when you were young, when you got to Fresno State a couple years before me, you got to Fresno, I should say.
Mhm.
Um, which was bigger part of your story, your life, your daily concerns, being a queer man or being an immigrant? Did you think about it at all?
I think the immigrant part was part of my elementary school life, and it's somewhat of I don't know if the right word is convoluted, but it wasn't your typical immigrant story because I'm Colombian by birth. I had a Colombian passport, and my name is Gustavo Beltran. But then I was adopted, and my name was changed to Peter Robertson. And so when I came into the United States, my name was Peter Robertson. My name had already been changed. So I was raised very, um, very white. We spoke Spanish in the home when I was a child. But then, you're in America, we're speaking English, and this is the new you. Well, I had no. That's how parenting was done back then. Now they might say you want you to keep your roots. We're going to keep you speaking Spanish, but at that time, 1969, 1970, you left that part behind and entered something new. And I think that was probably just how it was done. I don't know if it was right or wrong. I can't change it. So I think my immigrant story waned a bit once I got into middle school. And I became a citizen in sixth grade. And
Mm,
so I my parents took me down to Seattle, Washington, to take the oath of office at the courthouse. There's a federal courthouse across the street from the public library in Seattle. And we went down to I had to do an interview, and they give you this book. I had to do an interview. They give you a book to read, all the things about being a citizen. And I study the book. I study the book. We come back, a month later, and that you have to do an interview. And the guy interviewing me asks, I'm with my mother. Uh, you may not have to take the test because you've been in school here for 6 years. And so who was your first grade teacher, your second grade teacher, your third grade teacher, your fourth grade teacher, your fifth grade teacher? And I'm mentioning their names. She goes, yeah, you don't have to take the test. You'll be fine. And I thought, what? I've been studying this test for the last 4 weeks because I wanted to make sure I could become a citizen. So it was a big deal in my hometown. I got my picture taken. My sister became a citizen. She got her sister picture taken. It's in the Skagit Valley Herald, which was a daily. It's in the Mount Vernon Argus, which was a weekly, little town of 10,000 people. And so we had show and tell. I'm in Mr. Tolf's class at Lincoln Elementary School, and we're doing show and tell. And I bring my certificate of my naturalization certificate, and I have a letter from Gerald Ford, and we're doing show and tell. And I do, I'm a citizen. Da 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 da. And my best friend at the time, his name was Tim, says, "Gosh, Pete," they call me Pete. I sat in the front row. He sat right behind me. He says, "I did not know," front of the whole class, "I did not know I've been sitting behind an illegal immigrant all year." And
Did you even know what that meant?
I know it wasn't good,
Uh,
right? Because the
uh,
word illegal in it, I could cry right now thinking about that.
yeah.
So I go back home and I said, "Mom, am I an illegal immigrant?" She says, "No, why would you say that?" I said, "Well, Tim said that in class today." She goes, "No, you're here legally. You were here on a green card. Tim doesn't know what he's talking about." And, Tim is innocent. He doesn't know. He's hearing what he hears from his parents or whoever. But even to this day, that's just a very tender moment. And when people say, how come these kids don't know they're undocumented? How come people don't know? It's like, well, crap, I didn't know either. I mean, I knew, but I didn't know, right? You know, but you don't know. And so, I mean, you can't be, judging these children that are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. I was 12. I was 12 years old and knew, but I didn't know, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Um,
That story makes me cry because it was
I see
very,
that.
very painful.
Well, I didn't see it coming, and it kind of got me too. I told Lev I let him ask these questions as we
That's fine.
digged in that story, but I can't I can't not follow up here as you wipe your eyes. And I see the work you do with not just with the Bulldog Pride um, project, do I want to call it the program? But with all of your alumni stuff and Fresno being such a brown campus, how do you bring your early experiences, or do you bring those early experiences to you as you're working with those youngsters?
Absolutely, absolutely. I've been really blessed to do some speaking groups in sociology, groups in health and human services, groups with the Chicano Youth Leadership Project. I've spoken to Upward Bound. I always say this is part of my identity, but one of the things I have is I have some white privilege passing because my skin color is light and I have a I don't have an accent and I have a English surname and first name and surname, and so I could probably be hide these identities if that was something I chose to do. But I choose to acknowledge it in a public facing way to just show that technically I believe we're all immigrants unless you're part of a indigenous American group. We're all immigrants in our lineage from something and from somewhere. And so I kind of do that to honor not just my story, but all our stories.
No. Okay. Hey, Lev, I'm gonna all the questions from out here on out. Not all of them. You take it wherever you want, but I'm just gonna say one name. Why do you and I know the name Barry Grove?
Mm. Barry Groves was a writer for the Collegian,
Fresno State Daily.
Fresno State Daily. Donnell at one time was the editor in chief. Uh, it was 19. Let me think. There's a pre-story, there's a
No,
pre-Barry story, there's a Barry story, and a post-Barry story.
okay,
So, I'll
can't
try,
wait to hear it.
so I'm going to try to tell them real quickly. 1987, I'm a transfer student from Skagit Valley College and Fresno City College, and I'm coming to school. And there was a little article in the daily the Collegian, little tiny little article, not article, just a listing that they're starting this a gay group called the Gay Lesbian Student Alliance. And so in 1987, we there's 13, 14 students and an advisor that started this group. I'm one of the founding members of this group, 1987. And we launched this Gay Lesbian Student Alliance. And
And it was pretty unheard of, to be pretty clear there. This is a very conservative ag
it
community.
is by a little bit of a Bible Belt here, and I just come from. I was young. I didn't have a lot of fear. I was just very proud of who I was and the people that I was with. We were, a collective group of, almost misfits in a way. Now that I'm looking back, but we, and I mean that with love. I don't mean it in a bad way. Um, but we started this group. We had a booth, and Thanksgiving weekend of 1987, someone torched our booth and they burned it down. So people in our group, said, maybe it's not the right time. Maybe we should wait a couple years. And I'm thinking, wait a couple years. No, it's our America too. We deserve a right to be here. So in the spring of 1988, we rebuild our booth, and it's 8 feet high and 6 feet wide, and we have 1 foot wide pillars, and it's designed in a postmodern style. And Dirk Hubel and I go to Orchard Supply and we buy pink and lavender paint, and we paint this edifice pink and lavender. And people tag it, people are turning it over and turning it on its side. So Dirk Hubel and I go back to Orchard Supply on Blackstone and Barstow. It's 5 minutes from campus, and this time we buy Dayglow purple and hot pink, and we repaint the booth. And after that, people leave it alone because it was they were trying to terrorize us and scare us, and we're like, it's going to take more than that. Um, so
Now
that
it's important to mention that the booth is located in the free speech
Yes,
area.
in the free speech area, yeah. So then 1988 comes around, and there's an event that was being promoted nationwide called National Coming Out Day.
Which sounds so basic now.
Right, but National Coming Out Day, and so we, our little group is trying to get people to wear pink and lavender on National Coming Out Day. And we didn't use the word eyelash then, Lev. We used the word solidarity. Show your solidarity to your gay and lesbian friends and family, and wear pink and lavender. And Barry Grove, who was on the football team, and he wrote a full page, a full half page article called
Come out, but do it in private.
yeah, come out but do it in private. And in that he said, um, if you think that what gay and lesbians should do is keep it in private, wear black on National Coming Out Day. Wear black because being gay means death is a way of life.
Mm.
And I thought, wow, um, that's kind of mean.
The thing about that piece is, we've talked about it before, but he wrote that thing on a Sunday night. We would come out on Monday morning, and he had turned it in. And I wasn't the editor; I was managing editor at that
Right.
point. Rob Evans was editor in chief, and Rob was like, "I don't know whether to publish this." And half the staff wanted to, and half didn't. And I came out. I came down on the side of publishing it. It was, yeah, I mean, we did. We published it, and it caused an outcry, uproar and outcry. Um, is there something else you would like to tell us about that? You said there's a part 2 and a part 3 with that.
Okay, the part 3 is the following spring, 1989. Our group is hosting a little conference for West Coast schools. People from UC Santa Cruz and UCLA and USC and Sac State, they all come to Fresno on President's Day weekend. And that on February 1989, the KKK came on campus to protest our group. And
And Barry wrote another op-ed on that too.
I think he might have been on. I shouldn't say that. So some people think he was on the truck. I didn't say that. Other people said that. There were 5
Yes.
people. There were 5 people in hoods driving around campus on the back of a flatbed truck.
Yeah.
And the photographer of that was a gentleman named Mark Morrow, who lives in Boston now. And about 10 or 15 years ago, I was on the East Coast, and I got to connect with him.
Hmm.
And I just said, "Oh my gosh, Mark, I have shown your picture to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that would think I was making this up if I didn't have an artifact from the cover of the Collegian." And I give shout outs to you, Donnell, because the power of the media. If we did not have that picture, people would think I was making it up.
Yeah,
Because
and very similarly, there was a real inclination to not publish that picture. I definitely had to
believe
go
it.
back to
I
publish
believe
that.
it. I believe it. And I'm glad you did publish the picture, and I'm glad you published Barry Grove's article. I mean, that's what free speech is about, right?
Mm.
You don't have to agree with it, but I do support your right to say what you want to say.
Well, I don't want to hijack your story, but there's a funny story about that piece, because I don't actually know if I would publish it the same way today. I mean, I was 22 years old, whatever.
Hmm.
But I don't know, there was a journalism competition called SEPA, Intercollegiate Press Association, and that piece took first place in California that year. That column did, and so
Barry did?
yeah.
Really?
Yeah, no, not Barry's. My piece saying "come out." I wrote an answer piece.
Oh, you did. Yes,
Oh.
you did. Yes, you did. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I wrote an answer piece, so it won first place. And
Congrats.
Well, I went to the LA Press Club Awards a few years ago, like 2021 or something, right after the pandemic. And I ran into the guy who spoke that night, Robert Shear. Are you familiar with Robert Shear at all? He's a Berkeley dude. I'd never heard a journalist talk that way. He was talking pure progressive politics in the summer or the spring of 1988. And I was in journalist responsibility toward that. And I was just gobsmacked. So I get the award, I hear the speech, and then when I get my award, I come down from the stage getting my award. The thing ends. These 7 girls from the Santa Cruz school come up to me. They have like this sisterhood panel of editors, and the lead panelist comes up to me and she goes, "I would like to have sex with you." And I said, "Oh my God, well, that has never happened to me before." Okay. And so I did. And let's be honest, I did get an STD. That did happen. But I I ran into Robert Shear at these awards, and I told him, I said, "You spoke that day, one of the most important days of my life. I got first place for the
You got an
award.
STD.
I got CD, and no, I got laid, and I'm leaving out the most important part. I got an internship at the LA Times, all on that same day. And I said it was one of the best days of my life. But I told him that honestly, the words that he spoke were the things that had stayed with me longest, longer even than the STD.
Wow.
So is it him or his son? Right? Because there's an older one, and then his son is also a media, right?
Robert Shear has an older what?
Doesn't he have a son that's also a writer and everything? No. I was
don't
just
know.
trying to clarify in my mind which one.
Mm.
So Peter, were you out with your Baptist missionary parents at that time when you were in Fresno?
When I moved to Fresno, yeah, I came out in junior college, moved out of the house, came out of the house. It was very, very contentious.
Mhm.
It was very traumatic. It was very very challenging, but I was out of the house. I was self-supporting, right? So, I mean, I had that privilege, but it was tough. It was really, really tough. The because my parents were we were, Baptist, we were Baptist, and it was just something that was, it was a first class ticket to hell, right? Um, go full circle. 2 weeks ago, my grandma passed, and I was asked to be one of 2 speakers to give remarks at her funeral. And I'm back in Mount Vernon, Washington, and her memorial service was at St. Paul's Episcopal Church. And the church wanted to see my remarks a week in advance. They wanted 500 words. I wrote 1,000. They said it was too long. I cut it down to about 750. Hardest thing I've ever done was to write the speech because I'm representing the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren and the great-great-grandchildren. And I pull up to the church on Saturday morning, I think it was the 28th, and there is a pride flag flying in front of this church, Donnell, in front in my little hometown. And I am overwhelmed with joy. And so I asked my aunt, I said, "Nancy, can I acknowledge this flag flying in my remarks?" And she puts her hand on my shoulder. She goes, "Pete, you do whatever you want." I said, "Okay," asked and answered. So it's a full mass. It's a full mass. And before the mass, I get up to say my remarks. I introduce myself, and I'm the son of these, who my parents were. And I said, before I offer my remarks, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge this Progress Rainbow Pride flag flying out in front of St. Paul's Episcopal Church. I said, I'm a member of the Rainbow community, and it's not often we see reflections of ourselves in a public space, but especially in a place of worship. So thank you to this congregation, and thank you to the leadership. And I, the priests that were sitting over there. And afterward, 5, 6, 7 people are coming up and thanking me for acknowledging the flag, because it's been a challenge for that congregation to fly this flag on one of the busiest streets in my hometown. and the pianists came up and thanked me, people that were acolytes, people that were deans, and they came up and thanked me for acknowledging that flag, and I'm so glad that I took the moment to do that because, it was the right thing to do, and I felt I needed to get permission to do it just out of respect to my grandmother.
Mhm.
Um
I always thought you were just such a brave guy, because like
Thank you.
I was at Fresno State. Some people didn't want me there, but they openly said, "We don't want your kind."
Oh, all
And
the
you would
time.
just be strutting along campus like a leader. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
Scott Vick, we mentioned earlier, is the guy who was campus president. But you were like a potent force at the time when there was sort of like this progressive awakening happening on campus, you know?
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you something. I I they burned our booth down the fall of 1987, and we had a rally in the free speech area, and there was a little stage, and people gave some speeches, and 4 years ago, summer of 2022, I got my doctorate in 2022, and that summer, end of the summer, July, August, one of my classmates reached out to me. His name is Rob, he lives in Humboldt, and he said something, on Facebook. He goes, "Peter, you were just so brave. I remember that speech you gave when they burned the booth down." And I messaged him back. I said, "Rob, you're crazy. There's no way I got up and gave a speech. There's absolutely no way I gave a speech." And he sends me a picture, Donnell, of
Mm,
giving a speech. And once he sent me the photo, I remember
mhm,
my turtleneck, my jacket. I wore a pink triangle on my lapel,
mhm,
and I went in the garage and went and found I was on the front page of the Daily Collegian giving a speech. Not my picture, but they quoted me. Um, and what I said was, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I was quoted as saying that we, members of the LGBT community, we are entitled to our pursuit of happiness.
mhm,
And that's from the Declaration of Independence, right? Before the internet, you had to go look all this stuff up, and I knew enough to get something that was 200 years old to put into my speech. And I'm so, and then looking back, I also was in a speech class that semester, and I'd forgotten I'd been giving all these speeches on gay and lesbian rights. And so when it was time to, I guess when it was time to give a speech in December, it was my end of the semester review, and I was ready to go. But I went to, I got in this picture. I was overwhelmed with emotion, and I meet with one of my mentors, Dr. Chris Clark. She's at University of Helsinki now. But I show her this picture on my phone, and I said, Dr. Clark, look, how come I didn't? She's a social worker. I said, how come I don't remember this picture? And how come I didn't remember this picture? She goes, Peter, this picture has brought you so much pain and trauma. I think you blocked it out.
mhm,
I said, for 35 years? And she says, yes. And I'm just like overwhelmed with emotion. I'm crying and saying, oh my God, I had no idea I had given this speech for 35 years. Because I appreciate the kind words is what I'm getting at, but a lot of things that happened, I didn't even realize they were happening. I was just living my life as authentically as I could,
mhm,
even when I wasn't given the support or the permission. Not that I need support or permission, but I wasn't given the a sense of place and purpose to do so.
mhm.
God, we're just
I
flying through this whole thing, Lev. I only need known you for 5 minutes.
uh,
I knew I was good. I already knew. I said, Donnell's going to ask me some hard questions.
yeah, and I'm just like thinking, God, it was harder to come out as a gay person than it was as an illegal immigrant. And now it's
Mhm,
harder to come out as an illegal immigrant, I would think. I mean, maybe I'm
mhm,
wrong about that. I don't know, but
mhm.
Well, you
um,
were legal. You were legal, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.